True horror stories that happened during Easter Vigil. Welcome to Midnight Whispers. Easter Vigil is supposed to be one of the holiest nights of the year. The candles are lit. The prayers are spoken. And for a few quiet hours, the world outside simply stops. But what happens when something interrupts that silence? Not a car alarm. Not a late arrival fumbling through the door. Something that has no business being there. Tonight, 3 accounts. 3 separate locations. 3 groups of ordinary people who walked into their church on Easter night, and walked out questioning everything they thought they knew about what shares the dark with us. These stories were submitted by real people, witnesses who, to this day, have no explanation for what they experienced. The names have been changed. But the details? Those remain exactly as they were told. And if you've ever sat in a quiet place of worship and felt, just for a split second, like you weren't entirely alone, you might already know exactly what these people felt. If stories like these are what brought you here, hit that subscribe button right now. Because at Midnight Whispers, this is what we do every single week. Let's begin. Story 1, The Footsteps in St Augustines. The first account comes from a small rural parish in central Pennsylvania. Easter Vigil. April 2019. The church, St Augustines, was built in the 1880s. Stone walls. Wooden pews worn smooth by over a century of congregants. The kind of building that holds history in every creek and corner. A woman named Mira, a longtime volunteer, had arrived early that evening to arrange the candles along the altar steps. She'd done it every year for almost a decade. It was her tradition. Her quiet moment before the chaos of the service began. The church was empty. Just her and the candlelight. She told investigators, and later, a paranormal documentation group, that the silence that night felt different. Heavier. Like the air itself was waiting for something. The service began just after 9 p.m. About 40 congregants were seated. The deacon, a man named Father Tobias, was midway through the opening liturgy when it happened. Between one hymn ending and the next beginning, in that brief, total silence. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Moving slowly down the center aisle. But no one was walking. Mira said she felt it before she heard it. A drop in temperature, sudden and sharp, like someone had cracked open a window in the middle of winter. The candle flames along the altar bent inward, all of them, at once, as if something was moving past them. She looked up. Every head in the congregation had turned. The footsteps continued, slow, unhurried, all the way to the front of the church. And stopped. Directly behind the altar. Father Tobias later said he finished the liturgy on instinct. He didn't look behind him. He told himself it was the building settling. Old stone does that, he said. It breathes. But after the service, when the congregants had gone and only Mira and 2 other volunteers remained, they found something. A side door. One that Mira was certain she had checked and locked herself before the first candle was lit. Open. Not ajar. Not swinging. Open, wide and deliberate. Leading down a short staircase to a basement storage room that the parish had sealed off 11 years earlier after a flooding incident. The basement was dark. No one went down. But from the bottom of those stairs, faint, barely there, the smell of candle wax. Fresh candle wax. In a room that hadn't been opened in over a decade. Long pause for tension. The diocese was notified. An inspection of the basement the following morning found no evidence of entry. No candles. No wax. No explanation for the smell, or the footsteps, or the door. The report was filed. The case was closed. Mira still volunteers at St Augustines every Easter. But she no longer arranges the candles alone. Story 2, The Man in the Last Pew. The second account was submitted anonymously, later traced to a mid-sized Baptist congregation in rural Georgia. Easter Vigil. March 2022. Deacon Warren had served that church for 31 years. He was the kind of man who arrived first and left last. Who knew every face in every pew. Who prided himself, quietly, privately, on never once having been rattled by anything he couldn't explain. He was a skeptic. Firmly and unapologetically. That changed on an Easter night. The service was about 40 minutes in. Hymns had been sung. Scriptures were being read. Warren was standing near the back, his usual position during the vigil. When he noticed a man sitting alone in the very last pew. Dark coat. Pale face. Hands folded in his lap. Eyes forward. Warren didn't recognize him. That alone was unusual. He knew every member, and visitors rarely came to the late vigil without being accompanied by someone from the congregation. But it was Easter. People came back. He didn't want to make anyone feel unwelcome. He moved toward the back pew. Reached for a spare program to offer the man. And when he looked up, the pew was empty. Not a sound. Not a movement. No footsteps. No door opening. Nothing. The man was simply gone. Warren looked around. Asked the two nearest congregants, quietly, between scripture readings, if they'd seen the man leave. Both of them stared at him. One of them, an older woman named Della, said she had been watching that pew for the past 10 minutes. She'd noticed the man too. Thought he looked cold. Had been meaning to ask Warren if the back door had been left open. She hadn't seen him move either. After the service, Warren requested access to the church's security footage. The camera, mounted above the main entrance, had a clear view of the entire nave, including the back row. He watched the full recording from that night. The back pew was empty. The entire service. Not for 1 second did anyone sit there. Warren spent 3 days trying to rationalize it. A trick of the light. Shared suggestion between tired minds. He almost convinced himself. Then a junior deacon, while organizing the church archive the following week, pulled out an old photograph. Black and white. Framed and dusty, one of dozens that had sat in a storage box for years. He brought it to Warren without knowing why he felt compelled to. The photograph showed the interior of the church, the same pews, the same layout, taken sometime in the early 1950s. In the very last pew, alone, hands folded, eyes forward. A man in a dark coat. On the back of the photograph, in faded pencil. Easter Sunday. 1953, in memory of Brother Cornelius Webb, who passed here, during service, on this night. Warren doesn't stand at the back anymore. 2 churches. 2 nights. 2 experiences that have never been fully explained. Which one unsettled you more, the footsteps that stopped behind the altar, or the man who was never really there? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a good time. The final story tonight is the one that keeps people in this community talking. Because this one doesn't stay inside the church walls. Story 3, What the Dog Heard. The third account comes from a Pentecostal church compound in rural Mississippi. Easter Vigil. April 2021. Brother Cyrus had been the church's volunteer security for going on 6 years. Every late-night service, every holiday vigil, Cyrus was there. Quiet man. Reliable. And he always brought Rex. His German Shepherd, a trained protection dog who had never once reacted during a church service. Not to crowds. Not to music. Not to children running in the courtyard after Sunday school. Rex was steady. Professionals. That Easter night, the service began at 10 p.m. About 60 congregants inside. Cyrus was walking the perimeter, his normal routine, when Rex stopped. Not a flinch. Not a warning look. A full stop. Body rigid. Nose pointed toward the east fence line. Then. A low, sustained growl. The kind Cyrus had only ever heard Rex make once before, during a training exercise with a live threat. Cyrus moved toward the fence. Flashlight on. Hand steady. Nothing there. But Rex wouldn't move. Wouldn't break his line of sight from that exact section of fence. For 2 hours, through the rest of the service, through the closing prayers, through the congregation filing out into the night, Rex stood in that spot and didn't move. After the last car left, Cyrus swept the perimeter properly. Along the east fence, in the soft mud from recent rain, he found boot impressions. Large. Deep. Fresh. They led directly to the fence post. And stopped. No impressions on the other side. No disturbance in the grass beyond the fence.
It's right over
No
there.
indication that anyone had climbed over, or back. The prints simply ended at the post. As if whoever made them had walked to that exact point.
What do you see, boy?
And disappeared. Cyrus reported it the following morning. Local police came out. A K-9 unit confirmed Rex's alert had been legitimate, the scent trail was real. They followed it to the fence post. And lost it there. Exactly where the prints ended. The case was documented but never resolved. 3 weeks later, 40 miles north, a neighboring church reported a break-in during a late-night midweek service. The suspect was never identified. But photographs taken during the evidence collection were shared with Cyrus as part of a wider community security alert. The boot impressions in those photographs were identical. Rex still works every vigil. Every late service. Every holiday night. But Cyrus added a second lock to the east gate. And he never walks that fence line alone anymore. 3 Easter vigils. 3 different states. 3 groups of people who came to worship in peace. And left with something they've never been able to shake. Footsteps in an empty church. A man in a photograph. Boot prints that lead nowhere. None of these accounts have been officially explained. The doors that opened. The footage that showed nothing. The trail that simply ended.
Have left.
So here's the question worth sitting with tonight. Were these encounters supernatural? Were they the product of minds primed by silence and expectation and candlelight? Or is there something about the hours between midnight and dawn, on the holiest nights of the year, that pulls the boundary between what we know and what we don't know, just slightly thinner? We may never have the answer. But the witnesses do. And they're all still watching. If this video kept you watching to the end, thank you for being here. Hit the like button if these stories stayed with you. Comment the word vigil below if you made it this far, we want to know you're out there. Share this with someone who thinks they don't believe in ghost stories. And subscribe to Midnight Whispers, because next week, we go somewhere even darker.